I'm Conrad Drover. Join me as I sit down with inspiring professionals from diverse fields to gain valuable insight from their experiences and knowledge to help me grow as both an educator in the classroom and as a person in all areas of my life. This is Professional Development. You are like one of the fittest people I know. And I've seen you grow as an athlete for the last decade, winning half marathons, like doing these crazy road workouts.
I guess, going back to track in the early days, I definitely didn't see myself doing a half or any road running. I guess we ran, 600s in uni, right? So wasn't really too much of an endurance based athlete, but just a lot of consistency and grit will kind of take you different directions, right?
The range you have now, because your half marathon time, what is your exact half marathon time now?
It's 107:21 at WFPS. I think it's actually unofficial because the course was marked out a little improperly.
Yeah.
It's somewhere around there.
Hey, we'll still take it.
Yeah. We'll still take it.
The seconds might change a bit.
Here. Yeah.
I know you're sort of a multi-sport athlete, like with hockey and whatnot when you were growing up as well. So can you just tell me, like, how did track and field happen for you? How did running happen to you? Because most people think we're insane, and like it's just a weird series of events that makes us want to do this continuously for the rest of our lives.
No, and I guess going back to our previous conversation, just really good mentors is the reason why I'm here. And the name of that mentor would be Sheldon Reynolds and Andy Tuff. Sheldon Reynolds was the gym teacher at White Ridge Elementary School, the school I was going to at the time. And I played hockey when I was a kid, but essentially my gym teacher came up to me and said, "Hey, you should join this new track club thing after school." It was kind of just taking off at the time. It was probably like 2006 or something like that. And I think he told me this after a race. We had those little grade 3 races. I remember holding my asthma puffer as a kid. It was only like 2 kilometers, but those races were like, you felt dead after them. But I remember him kind of saying, "Hey, you should join this program." And essentially joined Tough Track. And that's where I met my other great mentor, Andy Tuff, who was the other coach there at the time. And then kind of started off in Tough Track, which is basically, when you're young, it's more of a run, jump, throw kind of grassroots track and field program. Kind of at the start, initially, I took it as more so cross training for hockey, I guess, and something to do while I was waiting for my parents to pick me up from school. And then I guess I just kind of fell in love with it. I kind of got more into it over the years than I did with hockey, especially by the time I got to 16, 17, I kind of quit hockey and I just continued on with Tough Track. And Tough Track's really the reason where the doors kind of opened for university. And then that's kind of how I joined the team and everything.
Yeah. I wonder, like, again, like me and you and pretty much all our friend group, like, we understand like the joy of working out and like just like we keep coming back for whatever reason.
Yeah.
But like if you could like articulate it, like why as like a 16, 17-year-old you were so like addicted to like going to practice, training, like what was it that pulled you away from something like hockey? Yeah. Right? Because like in reality, it's just running around in circles, right? Like break down like a workout. Like what makes it so tantalizing?
Yeah, I guess at the time when I was younger, I had friends in both hockey and the track there, so I wouldn't say it was necessarily the friends, but I think it was just I was fairly good at it. I wasn't the best, but I was getting better. And I think what was helping me go back at the time when I was younger was that you could see the improvements, right? It was a very tangible way to see you improve. There was goals, there was races. You could, win races.
Very objective time.
It's a very goal-orientated sport. And I think that's kind of what got me really hooked on it when I was younger, right? And those reasons are a little bit different now, right? Like now I would say it's definitely the friends. It's definitely, waking up and doing something hard every day, right? I think those are kind of the things what I really love about it now. But I think that's probably what kind of got me really hooked onto it when I was younger.
The goal setting, like,
Yeah,
it's
just
like
seeing the improvement.
like, and I guess some kids get that in like video games, right? Like,
Yeah,
oh, you get the
totally.
XP, you get the levels,
Yeah,
but track and field's like very similar, except you have that health component and like the competitive aspect to
Yeah.
it. And then, yeah, the social cohesion around like tough track and like around
Yeah.
your training group that you would do.
Yeah.
And then, yeah, like, man, in university, like we're like attached from it to the point where like we've been out of it longer than we've been in it.
Yeah,
Right?
yeah, no, for sure.
So
Yeah,
this is like weird. Like we're full blown adults now.
yeah,
Like
yeah,
like
yeah, yeah.
we're like, because when I think of it now, I thought we were in university. I thought we were adults, and I thought like that's cool. But we are still kids, man.
Totally. Yeah,
Like
yeah,
even
yeah.
like 2022, like we are still kids. Like
Yeah.
just living life, man.
Yeah.
Running around the track.
Yeah, I guess you can always say that about yourself because we'll be looking at this 10 years from now and being like, oh, we were just kids
Yeah.
back then too. But
No, like we had such a great structure where we'd train like really hard 3 times a week, and we'd run the rest, like easy runs for the rest of the week. What is your most I guess nostalgic thought of that? Like do you ever miss it? Like,
oh yeah, yeah, no, totally. When I was in it, I really loved it and enjoyed it, but part of me still sometimes feels like I'm in it. Not necessarily like I'm still on a team per se, but I still, those guys that I trained with, I mean, excluding you when you moved away, I'm bloody happy you're back now. But
yeah,
those guys, like you including now, are still the guys I see every other day, right? So a lot of me kind of feels like I'm still in it, and I'm still enjoying the aspects of it that I enjoyed back then, which is literally the family, right? Kind of like you said before, you get into university, the beautiful thing about being on a team is it provides you a family, a group of people you can attach to, right? Whether it's for just, recreational activities, or if you actually need help with school and stuff, right? And I think that was a good thing about being on a team is it provided you a family instantly, right? Like being a TA now, I see a lot of those kids who are in school, they don't have those families, right? They don't have those groups. So a lot of them, I feel fortunate that, we had an opportunity to, gain a lot of friends and gain a lot of like-minded people right away. But yeah, I mean, I sometimes still feel like I'm in it right now, and it's just because the same people I was with back in the day, I'm still hanging around now, and those are the guys that are going to be, I'm at weddings still now, and will be at weddings, and so yeah.
This guy's my best man, by the way.
There you go.
Yeah. I always think back to that. Like, it was just, you never know when it was going to end until it ended.
Yeah.
Right? It's like you just thought that was like routine, and those 5 years go by really fast.
Yeah.
But unlike some of our predecessors, like we kept up with it in some way, shape, or form. Like you guys definitely, right? I had to take a little break to like sort of establish my career and stuff like that. But then even I got back to it.
Yeah.
Right? Like skin of my teeth. But how has it changed from university training with the Bisons to now running as like you are a professional athlete, but you're not a professional athlete.
Yeah,
you're a professional and an athlete.
Yeah.
Right? So how has that changed running, like, I guess like you're hitting 30 right now, man. Like you're really close to it, right? How has it changed? Like what is the dynamics of your life now compared to university, and how are you working on goals? What are your goals, and like how do you structure it now compared to university?
Yeah. Good question. I mean, I feel like a lot of the structure of it has been, fairly consistent since university. Like, in university, you're showing up for your workouts, you're doing your easy runs on your off days. And still I'm doing those things, and I guess I just enjoy it, right? Like to find something that you're really passionate about and to do it well and to try your best and put everything in it, I think is, a noble pursuit. And like, running is just one of those things I really enjoy and put a lot of my time and energy into, and I still really enjoy it. So from university to now, not a lot of the structure's changed. Obviously, you know, I'm not a part of meets or a part of a lot of those things, but you know, my best friends, you included, you know, will find meets to go fly out to. We'll go on road trips together to go to track meets and run, right? We'll support each other. It's funny because I mean, I've never been running so well in my life, right?
Yeah,
Like
I know.
I've run, all my PBs are recent, not necessarily university. So just because, you know, you leave doesn't mean you have to quit. I mean, if you enjoy something, keep going, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and it provides a lot of structure to my daily life too, I find, right? So like not necessarily like the health benefits are kind of secondary, right? Like
Yeah.
I obviously want to, you know, be healthy and try to have as much lean muscle mass and all that and good VO2 and everything. That's great, but waking up early, getting a workout in provides a lot of structure to my life, right? Because, you know, it gets me out of the bed early, gets me going on my day early, right? So I think it's just kind of a way to kind of structure your life too. So
I like how you say like you're still improving. Like you must have PB'd in the mile like what, a year ago, right? Like 2 years ago, maybe a year ago. Like what is your mile time? Like you don't run it much, but like
I'm not exactly sure what my mile time would be.
you run in Boston, right?
Yeah,
Boston
it was probably 4:10, I think, in Boston. My 15 is the one that I run more currently. That was 3:47 last summer in Guelph, which was a PB.
And that converts to like probably like a
probably 4:05 or
4:05
6,
mile,
which I think I could probably run if I was running in a mile. I mean, obviously the goal, like for me now, I mean, as you get older, you kind of transition to halves, and you know, I'm thinking about trying a marathon at some point,
10Ks and everything like that.
Yeah, but the part of me still wants to try to run a fast mile, right?
Hey man, you could do it. Like again, I PB'd when I was 29, and you know, but it's just phenomenal that like I'm thinking back to like when I was in my 5th year, you were in your 3rd year, 2nd year, like that Matthew Van Schepdael couldn't fathom running a 3:47 1500 meter or like a 1 hour and 7 minute half marathon. Or what is your 10K PB now?
30:26, I think.
Yeah, so those are phenomenal times, and like those are actually times where the more casual runner has more respect for it, because like they like see the road stuff more, right? So they're like 1500, you say 3:46, they're like, oh, that's cool, like that must be pretty quick. And then you say a 30-minute 10K and they're like, oh my god, this guy is royalty, like this is wild. Right? Like what changed in your training? Like more autonomy? Do you understand the science more? Are you experimenting a bit more? Like
yeah, I guess I've always loved that stuff, so I've always kept up with reading and understanding the science of it. But kind of like you were saying, when you were young, you could never fathom doing stuff like that. I agree. I mean, I remember 1st and 2nd year uni, there's no way I could have done the workouts we were doing recently, right?
Today.
Well, today even, right? Today especially. And I think a little bit of that comes just with age and experience. I think when you're in 1st year university, like you're maybe not developmentally as matured as you think you are, right? So I think as you get older, you really do reach that peak. But in terms of training, what changed? Yeah, I mean, with being out of university, I had a lot more freedom to do what I kind of wanted to do. Definitely mileage was one thing that improved a lot. Yeah, like I, training for that WFPS. I mean, running 80 miles like every week for, 8 weeks in a row. I couldn't imagine that when I was younger, right? But you're older, you just have the ability to do kind of more difficult things like that. So I think mileage is definitely one thing that's changed a lot. Weights are definitely something
like strength training.
Yeah. Like, I do coach, some runners at the MRA. And I often tell them, strength training is something that's definitely overlooked with runners, but for me, I felt like has been definitely something that's a game changer, and I'm thankful I've kept it up because
you've been consistent with it for years.
Yeah, it's not only
that high performance thing came around, like stuck with it, and
Yeah.
somehow your card still works.
Yeah. No, shout out to Adam, man.
Yeah.
He's a beauty. But strength training, not only necessarily for injury prevention, but there's a lot of benefits for runners in terms of just like how much force output your muscles are putting out, right, per stride, which can help things like stride length and all that too. So probably mileage and strength, I think, would be two things that really improved as I went on. And I think, developmentally, you get a little bit more mentally mature when you get older. So
Yeah, you know your body a bit more, you know its limits, you
totally,
know how to adjust your intensities.
Yeah.
So like I know there's going to be a couple runners on here that, you know, do the road races, do the half marathons, do the 10Ks. Then when they see your time, like heck, when they even see my time, which is quite a bit slower than yours, but still quick, they like can't understand it. Like they don't understand how we quote unquote sprint for an entire half marathon, because that's what it looks like to people. Like, let's say not this week because it was a little like mixed up with Max Bell and stuff like that. But like, take me through last week, you know, when we trained indoors on Tuesday, we did the DT and all that. Just give us like from Monday to Sunday what you did last week in training. Like Monday, what happened? Like, what do you do?
Honestly, training, the schedule is pretty consistent every week. I try to get up early. Well, you might think differently, but
we ran together.
Yeah, we ran together. Yeah, so Monday, Wednesday, and Friday are usually just an easy run. So I'll try to get that done first thing in the morning. So shout out to guys like you getting me up early to get that done. And then Monday, Friday, I'll do some type of weight with that as well. Just weights 2 times a week. I kind of ran that WFPS race, so I'm not training as intensely as I was. So on those easy days, sometimes I'll do a morning run and then an afternoon run. So it might be, 7 in the morning and 4 at night.
7 miles?
7 miles, yeah. Which would be, 11 or 12 kilometers or whatever, right?
And you say easy, like what is like your easy pace?
Easy pace, it's around 7 minutes per mile, 7:20, 7:30 per mile. So that's, 4:30 per kilometer, 4:20, per kilometer.
Yeah, because like I feel like even that, like that just shows how strong your base is, because that pace is quick for a lot of people, right?
Yeah.
But like we're just so conditioned that's our conversation pace. Like we were running in the morning and we were having a full-blown discussion, right? Talking about it.
Yeah.
But that comes with lots of time, lots of speed work and stuff like that.
Yeah, totally.
And so you okay, sorry to cut you off. You ran Monday, Wednesday, sometimes Friday. You do like at least one easy run. Sometimes you double up on those days just to get the volume, right?
Yeah.
So you'll do 7 miles.
Just time on feet.
Like 12K in the morning and then, another 8K or whatever in the afternoon, right? And then what do you do on like Tuesdays? Like I want to talk about the double threshold, because like people don't know what that is, and it'd be cool to talk about exactly what the purpose of it is, what the science is, and how we're implementing it in our training.
Yeah, no, totally. Like you said, Tuesday. Well, first off, Tuesday, Thursdays, and Saturdays, I'll work out. And Tuesdays is that one special session that you're talking about, double threshold. So essentially what I'll do is I'll work out in the morning and I'll work out at night. But both of those workouts are at threshold pace, essentially, right?
And threshold pace is...
Yeah, and I guess this is, I guess, when... It's funny because I have a lot of these conversations with some of the athletes that I kind of coach, but essentially what threshold pace is it's a pace where you're running at a pace where you're not accumulating lactate, right? So you're accumulating it, but you're also clearing it out at the same time, right? So if you're running above threshold pace, you're not clearing out the lactate as fast as you're accumulating it, right? So now it's starting to accumulate. So it's this pace essentially where you can run comfortably, accumulate lactate, and then also clear it out, right? And if you're running faster, it's accumulating faster than what you can clear out.
Right.
And that's essentially lactic threshold pace. So
that threshold is you're running just fast enough where you're hitting that line, but you're not going over it.
An hour, yeah.
So it is difficult. It's not like a walk in the park.
No.
Okay, but you don't want to go any faster than that on these double threshold days.
No, yeah. So like essentially, yeah, and I think it's basically the pace you can sustain for an hour. And I guess what I'm doing in the morning is I'm doing one session at a lactic threshold pace, and then the PM we're doing another session at a lactic threshold pace. So
how do those look? Like, what is the breakdown of those workouts? Like,
it's kind of funny because like we probably started doing these workouts probably when you left, right?
Yeah, COVID probably.
COVID years, yeah. But we had more like being off the team, we had more time to experiment with different things. So we've been kind of having fun with it, but it's definitely like the big buzzword in track and field and running right now, right? Yeah. People love hearing this, but they don't
Norwegian double threshold.
Exactly. Yeah. They love hearing it, but they don't quite understand what it is. And we're not doing it as intensely as those guys. We're not measuring lactic or stuff like
that. We're not Olympians. We'll never will be Olympians.
Yeah,
we just love running.
Yeah, we just love running. But essentially in the morning, it could be a session alone, like on the treadmill. So like classic one you'll do is 4 times 5 minutes at threshold pace, right? So for me,
minute rest or something.
Yeah. So if I'm running that hard, I might be running it like, sub 5 per mile, but a threshold pace might be like 5:20, 5:30 per mile, right? So fairly comfortable and relaxed. So it's a good workout. You're still running like 7 miles set or done at the end of it with warm up and cool down. And then by the evening, you come back and you'll do something on the track, which is kind of where we meet the group. And then some of the guys I've been training with will do a session like 20 times 400, right? Which is not that fun and it sounds pretty bad, but
the first workout I did with you guys was back. It was a 20 by 400 on that Thursday. And I was like cooked to a certain extent because I was like, because in university, whenever I thought track, like there is no way that someone was prescribing me 20 times 400 meters.
Yeah.
But it's a little different, right?
But it's not hard. Yeah. And that's the funny thing. It's not hard, right? Like you're doing 20 by 400 meters at that relaxed threshold pace.
Probably a little bit faster than what you do in the morning.
Yeah.
But it's shorter, right?
It's shorter. And then the idea is that, you run, you have a short rest, you run, you have a short rest, right? But the idea is that you're compounding so much time in that, fairly high intensity zone.
That physiological state.
In that physiological state, right? And I guess the idea behind it too is that you want to take that lactic threshold pace and move it up a little bit, right? So we'll commonly do 20 by 400 in 70 seconds, and we'll take a minute break or something, or 45 seconds or whatever, right?
Yeah.
The best guys in the world, they're running that 20 by 400 at 63, 64 in 30 seconds break, right? So their pace that they can sustain and clear lactate is much better than ours, right? So the idea is you're trying to push that zone up a little bit each time, right? So that's essentially the idea behind that training. But at the end of the day, you've run a lot. You've run, close.
Yeah, it just gets you like a machine. Like I remember doing it like this season, and like my time dropped by a minute and a half, and I was as fit as I ever was.
Yeah.
Without any like crazy speed work, but it was just that double threshold where you're hitting 2 workouts a day. You're accumulating mileage.
Yeah.
But what I've also read is that having a second workout in a day also triggers an extra growth hormone release.
Totally. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So you it's like a double whammy with a bunch of things, right? You're hitting that stimulus, and it's not too hard because like we've all done it too hard and then paid the price after, right?
Yeah.
So you're riding that line. I think it takes that maturity that we have to do it properly. Like, so.
Totally, yeah. And it's just one idea, right? Like it's definitely thrown around a lot in the running community. It's not necessarily the right way or the wrong way. It might not be a training method that works for everybody, but we've found, since COVID that we really enjoy it, and that's something we always do on a Tuesday. So,
Okay, so Tuesday, that's it. Before we get to Thursday and Saturday, because I want to talk about those, and Sunday, I guess, because Sunday is important.
Yeah, Sunday.
Thursdays, right? I feel like this is something that a lot of road runners don't understand about endurance running. I'm working with Prairie Performance Triathlon Club, and I'm trying to tell them that sometimes less is more.
Mhm.
Like sometimes, even though you're a distance runner, you're a 10K runner, you're a marathoner, because we
Yeah.
know one of those now. The speed work, the short stuff, like you can have a productive workout that is only cumulatively 2 kilometers.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh, totally, yeah.
So like that's typically what your Thursdays look like. Can you explain a Thursday workout?
I guess first off, a lot of this changes depending on the season and the time of year and what we're training for. But specifically now, going back to indoor training, more track focused. Thursday's more of a speed workout, right? So we'll essentially do, just short reps around the track really fast, bigger break, right? Bigger set rest. Kind of depending on the time of the year and exactly depending on what Claude kind of prescribes. But kind of essentially what you were kind of alluding to before is kind of the same thing I've told my athletes at MRA before too, is that, to run fast, you have to also like run fast in short reps, right? Because that'll show you and show your body. It'll kind of bring that floor up a little bit, right? So if you're consistently only running easy all the time, right, you're always going to be at that pace. But if you have opportunities to, run fast, it'll be easier to kind of bring that floor up a little bit, and then that easier day pace will feel a little bit easier.
Right.
Right.
I've always heard that, like, 9 by 300 meters,
Yeah.
right? And we give
Classic
2.5 minute rest in between each.
Yeah.
And for us, we're ripping them at like sub 4-minute mile pace or 4-minute mile pace. Like that's pretty much around that range, 42 to 45 seconds, right?
Yeah.
We sometimes cook it a little quicker, but to us, like that's fast. Like that is a minute to a minute and a half faster than our half marathon race pace, right? Yeah. So that doesn't mean that every hobby jogger has to run in 45 seconds, right? But it's just like that's the difference between the paces, right? It is fast. Like there is no way you could hold that for an extended period of time, right? But it trains your nervous system, your neuromuscular system, your running economy, like how well you do running.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And then you can scale that back to any pace you have. So I always try to explain, you are training your body to run more efficiently. They're like, oh, but like that's zone 5 work or whatever they say. Cause I don't know. I don't really care about the zones, but like that's like the number one indicator for a lot of these like runners that are just getting into it in adulthood and stuff like that. They're like zone 1, zone 2, zone 3, zone 5. Right?
Yeah.
But I'm trying to tell them like your heart doesn't see the number. You do that 300 and you do 4 of them in a row, you are aerobically working on your rest.
Yeah.
Like your heart rate is up on your rest.
Yeah.
That's your zone 2 right there.
Yeah.
Like your zone 2 is that 2.5 minutes of like knees on, like hands on knees going,
yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And then you're getting that anaerobic work, that speed endurance, right? All within the fast stuff. I feel like people try to separate the workouts, but really like something like that, you're holistically working. Like a good workout hits many things all the time, right? Yeah, in terms of like an exercise physiology standpoint, you are hitting the aerobic markers, and sometimes the interval session can go on for like 40 minutes. So in that 40 minutes, you're getting like 20 minutes of zone 2, heart rate 130 to 150 or whatever, just resting.
Yeah.
Right. And then you're also like, it's a form of strength training.
Yeah.
Like that speed work, right?
Yeah.
So like you extend it a bit more when you're really, really honing in on half marathons, but even 10Ks, I know you guys rip on the track and stuff like that for training, right?
Yeah. I mean, like I kind of said, it depends really the time of the year, but I feel like, a fast track workout is pretty common to see throughout training throughout the entire year. And yeah, like you said before, there's good things about running fast, like running economy, your nervous system, speed endurance, right? All those things, working a different type of muscle fiber, all that good stuff, right? So that's essentially kind of what Thursdays kind of look like.
It actually just makes like the actual race pace feel slower.
Yeah,
which is fun too. Like it's like, oh, I can do that, man. Like this feels not like nothing.
Yeah, which is kind of how I explain it to some runners I work with, how I explain it to Courtney and stuff too. Running fast is, makes that easier day pace feel a little bit slower, right? Yeah. So you definitely have to have that in there.
So we have easy running, Tuesdays we have a threshold workout, so high-end aerobic. And then you have an easy run on Wednesday, some weights. And then Thursday is like your speed. So that's like anaerobic speed endurance.
Mm-hmm.
So you're going past that threshold. You're accumulating acidosis, like hydrogen ions and lactate and all that fun stuff.
Yeah.
And you're, unlike Tuesday, on Thursday, you're just training your body how to deal with it.
Mm-hmm.
So like what I try to explain, and correct me if I'm wrong, because you know probably more about this than I do, but on Tuesdays, you're just, I guess, you're increasing the rate at which you can recycle those byproducts, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then I guess on Thursday, you're kind of working on the other side of it, where you're learning how to tolerate them more.
Yeah,
A little bit.
Yeah, I think that's a fair way to explain it. Yeah, like the lactate. I guess the one thing I would correct about it too is like the burn you might feel is more so the hydrogen.
Yeah,
because
like,
the lactate's actually a
it's a
good fuel
buffer.
source.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a fuel source too. It goes back into your body's.
But that's
fuel
the
source.
marker that shows up on blood tests that they can use. That is so it's associated with the hydrogen ions, right?
Yeah, totally, absolutely.
So it's a good. If there's more lactate, there's probably more hydrogen ions.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, it's just a co-indicator sort of thing, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay, so you got that, and then we always talk about VO2 max, and I think at least some of the Saturday sessions we do is like more of like a VO2 max workout, right?
Yeah.
Sometimes it's very race specific and very lactic acid, like whatever that term we want to call it, right? But then we usually throw like a VO2 max workout in there, right?
Yeah.
And could you explain like what a VO2 max workout is like?
Yeah, like I mean, I do enjoy all the exercise scientists, but I'm not saying I'm an expert in anything too. But in terms of, a Saturday workout, it's usually some type of a race simulation or just a very hard workout. But yeah, you could describe it as a VO2 session, which is essentially like, how much oxygen your body can consume per minute per kilogram of body weight, right? So like if you look at the best, endurance athletes in the world, I think Christian Blumenfeld is a name that comes up a lot. He's a triathlete, an Ironman athlete, I believe. I think he has the highest recorded VO2 in the world, which was like 103 or something like that, which is crazy,
Wow.
Which is essentially saying he can consume this much oxygen per minute, right? His body knows what to do with that, right? Versus an average person, I think it's about 40 or so for just an average person. And then for an athlete like ourselves, maybe like 60 to 80, right? Because you're practicing using that, right? And we can talk about things like how VO2 relates to longevity and stuff, which it's actually one of the biggest markers of longevity as well.
Like how is a VO2 max workout structured? Like how do you hit that stimulus?
Well, I guess I'm trying to think of one example of like a Saturday workout. Like, well, a classic one we might do would be like something like a pit workout, right? Like that's a non-forgiving workout. It's a tough one, but essentially when you're in the pit, you're in the hot seat, you're running these 2 longer reps back to back with short rests, right? So in terms of structure, usually it's a high intensity rep with little rest, right? That's essentially what it is. So that workout might look like something like, 1200, 1 minute break, 1200, but you're running those pretty fast, right? And then your next set is more so the easier, like 3 times 400, 3 times 400, right? Could be something different, like, a 600 really fast, short break, and then, a 200 or whatever, right? Kind of breaking down like a race distance you're focusing on, like an 800 or a mile, right? So they're very intense, and they usually have either short rest or you'll get a lot of rest too if you want to hit the rep very fast. So that's kind of where, kind of Claude comes in and he kind of finesses and plays around with like, the art of coaching and understanding what exactly the group needs.
No, so I think, and then Sunday we have the long run, and like I'll just talk about that for a second. So like that is like the extended aerobic run. Like we do it about an hour and a half to 2 hours sometimes, and that's conversational pace. And what that is doing is it's like mitochondria, like upregulation, increasing the amount of capillaries you have, basically getting more pathways and more like factories for you to actually use oxygen, right? Yeah. So the thing I want to take home, I want the audience to take home here is that endurance running is more than just straight volume. Volume has a ton to do with it, but you have to hit all these markers in priority sequence, depending who you are, what you need, what you're lacking, to be a holistic distance runner and get the absolute best performance. This is where like the 104s, the 103s, the 58 second, like these half marathon times, this is what they do, right? This is what the sub-elite runners like myself and Matt here do, and Simone Berube and Nick Kosminko, Paul Carr, everyone I could possibly think of in Winnipeg that runs these crazy distances. And think about it this way, right? You have one workout that is helping you build more buses that transport oxygen all around your body, right? So the more buses you have, the more little oxygen molecules can send through your body and that you can use. Then you have one workout that's making these little factories that take up those oxygen and actually make energy out of them. And so those factories need to be built, or else you're just going to have a backlog of this oxygen that you can't use. So there's no point in having all of that stuff. So you need to be able to process that oxygen that you've spent so much time building these buses to transfer everywhere in your body. And then you have another workout that optimizes these little factories for you to not only produce the energy, but recycle everything and all the byproducts from that energy. And then you have another workout that says, okay, well, if we don't have this energy source, here's a backup. And that takes a lot more effort, that has a lot more byproducts and stuff like that, glycolysis and everything like that. But that is one aspect of it. So you have these workouts that are optimizing your body to gather, use, and recycle all these different molecules that your body needs and produces in this metabolic process, what your body has to do to produce work. You need all those things to be optimal.
Yeah.
And each one of these workouts is not the be all end all, but together, along with the base of the easy running, is going to make you that top athlete. It's going to make you the best athlete you can be, I should say. And some of it's genetics, like that guy with the VO2 max. VO2 max has a genetic ceiling, for sure. But you can bump up that genetic ceiling with a certain type of workouts. Your speed endurance, your body composition. Those are all factors, right? So if you look at them separately, you might think, well, that's not me. Like, that's not my event. That's not whatever. But you have to look at it from a holistic view. I think of it like making soup. Right? I talked to Jessica O'Connell about this. It's like you need the skill set where you're really good at cutting up the carrots and, growing the plants and stuff like that. But you need one workout where you're training yourself to make really good broth, right? And then like you put it all together and you have the best soup in the world. Like that's sort of what we're going for, right?
Yeah.
Would you agree with that?
No, absolutely, man. It's kind of funny because I was talking to my brother yesterday who's getting back into running, and he's kind of going through the same experience where I find him, he's running 5 miles every day on the treadmill at 7-minute mile or under, right? And he's working hard, but it's just, again, like I was kind of explaining, you don't want to do the same thing all the time. You want to, essentially, training is providing a stimulus and adapting, right? If he's just running 5 miles every day, he's going to get really good at running 5 miles.
At that pace.
Yeah, but, he's going to burn out. He's not going to think it's fun. It's going to be lame.
Yeah.
So, I kind of told him, I'm like, hey, man, that's awesome. But, how about we try that like every other day? And then every other day in between, how about you run, 2 miles faster, or you run 1 minute, 2 minute, 3 minute, 4 minute, and then you go back down, right? You try some type of a workout, right? And I think kind of opened his eyes a little bit, because he kind of just thought that, I must just run 5 miles hard every day, which is not essentially what I guess we do when you're running a lot, right? There's a lot of structure to it, for sure.
Thanks for letting me nerd out with you on that, because and I think that a lot of people are going to find that useful, just to like break it down, like what a training week looks like, right? It's not just, and you could scale that, right? You don't have to do everything in a week.
Yeah.
You could have a VO2 max session once every 14 days, and a threshold set it doesn't have to be double, right? You could have a single one like every 14 days. Like you could, whatever your work schedule lines up. And the number one thing like I want to say to people is like, it does, like when you're starting out, the best workout you can do is the one that you're going to do consistently. If you're starting from scratch, you can get better just by going out for a walk.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So,
no, totally. And like, I wouldn't even think of it in terms of like, you know, VO2, tempo, lactic threshold session.
That's just us
would,
nerds.
yeah, no, I would just simply say like, you know, this is what I tell my family and Cord, and, you know, I just say, and my brother, I'll just say, you know, run easy every other day, and then, you know, throw maybe 1 or 2 workouts in there.
We're huffing and puffing.
Look up a workout or ask a friend, you know, just type of running workout, and then make sure you rest too. I think rest is also where a lot of the benefits come from, and that's something that I probably could do better at.
You don't get faster from doing tough workouts. You get faster by recovering from tough workouts.
Yeah, no, for sure.
So anyway, before I let you go, like coming off your WFPS half marathon victory and personal best, what now? You said you're sort of in like back to base phase right now, sort of like just training to train until you find that goal. Like what does it look like on your horizon in like winter and spring and summer for the following year?
I think, I mean, kind of right now, just training, keeping a lot of fitness, and having fun with it every day, and just keeping the structure and routine of my life kind of going. But I think the next things on the horizon that I've discussed with you and some of the boys are to run that Vancouver Sun Run 10K in April. I'm turning 30 in July, so the goal would be to go sub 30 before 30 would be pretty cool.
There you go.
I was fairly close, I guess, the last time, so it would be pretty cool to say, you know, I've run that time.
What's your personal best right now in the 10K? You said it earlier.
It was 30:26, I think.
Oh, you got this, man.
I think I can do it.
Hashtag 30 before 30.
Yeah. That's the goal. It'd be pretty cool. That would be great. And I think there's also the 10K championships in Ottawa after that, which I was thinking would be a fun race to kind of follow that up with. So that would be on the horizon there in April. Immediately here in winter, kind of mulling over the idea of doing a half marathon in Vancouver, that first half that I think you were thinking about as well.
Mm-hmm.
Or I am going to Australia for a little bit, so I was thinking possibly run a 1,500 or a mile down there. You know, I still kind of am in love with this idea of running, you know, a fast mile.
Yeah.
I just think it's the training for it's fun, and it's just so challenging, right? Like anything that's challenging, I find really enjoyable, even though it's cruel and it sucks and it's terrible, but the feeling of, you know, I mean, running can be cruel, right? It's a cruel thing when the lows are low and the highs are high. But I mean, if I can run a fast mile, I think that would be really, really cool. And I guess in the far future, I've never run a marathon, so I think you know, one of our buddies, Simone, just crushed a marathon there.
2:19:40. 2:19:40.
Yeah, 2:19:40. Yeah, so I mean, the dude kind of paved the way, and I think, you know, that's that kind of group of guys here that I'm training with. I think we were thinking maybe we would attempt one next fall.
Do a split group, have a couple do half marathons, couple full marathons.
Yeah, so something along those lines.
Get a party bus going, like
go back to Toronto.
Go back to Toronto. That's a story for a different podcast, though.
Podcast, After Dark podcast. With yeah.
All right. Well, thank you, Shep, Matt Van Schepdael. I'm gonna have you on again probably one day. Maybe we'll recap some of your races, you know, that you hit before the big 3-0.
Yeah.
Right. And I just appreciate it. And I think that you have a very well-rounded experience in life, being a competitive, like I would say, elite athlete, and, you know, also just crushing it in your professional career. So awesome to have you on. And thanks everyone for listening. Feel free to subscribe to hear more interesting conversations and to see more of this guy. Remember, it's if you haven't seen part 1, go check out part 1. He talks more about the sciencey stuff. And yeah, till next time. See you later.
Thanks a lot, man.
All
Thank you
right.
for tuning in to Professional Development with me, Mr. Drover. I hope you found today's conversation insightful and inspiring. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to subscribe, leave a review, and share with your fellow educators. You can also connect with me on Instagram or via email to continue the conversation and share your thoughts. Well, until next time, keep learning, keep growing, and keep making a difference, both inside and outside the classroom. I'll see you in the next episode.